I'm Marilyn Paterniak, PJ 11 CAPS co-facilitator, and this is for Alderman Zalewski. Since with the death of Ray Duranzo last summer, we have not had an Alderman's rep at the meeting. Will we have one? And Alderman Quinn, will you also be sending representatives from your office to the CAPS meetings?
My representative is Barbara Ziegler.
Okay. Okay, she was at our last meeting.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And I haven't replaced Ray Duranzo yet. I'm trying to do that now. He was pretty efficient and he knew the neighborhood. But when I do, there's 3 different beats predominantly in the 23rd Ward now, and I'll make sure that my representative will be at those meetings also.
38th officer. How many squad cars do you have other than the regular 811, 812 out there?
We have
In each
15
section.
We have 15 primary beat cars. That's something we man every watch, every day, at a very minimum. Besides that, it varies from watch to watch. On the 3rd watch, we try to put at least 32 cars up during the week, 36 on the weekends. Midnights, it's at least 20 cars. And on the days, it's a similar number.
How many is in this area?
In this area, every single day, each watch is 1 beat car on 811, 1 beat car on 812. And on each watch, we try to put up at least 1 10-sector car that will roam between the beats.
Just one?
Yeah.
That's minimum. And on certain watches, there's more. 3rd watch, we usually have more. We try to do at least 3.
We live on South Normandy, on the east side. Zalewski was our alderman, but supposedly now Alderman Burke is going to take over, who's not here. So if we have a question, we want some answers, where do we go, to Alderman Burke or Alderman Zalewski?
Well, we had this kind of discussion amongst ourselves, both Marty Quinn and Burke and myself, and it really makes common sense and benefits the community if we really work together, and we do. I said this last week at the Clarion Civically when I made a presentation there. Marty's a really nice young man, and he's a hard worker. He's got a real nice future in the Chicago City Council, and he's from our community. And Alderman Burke is the Dean of the City Council. He's been around since 1969. So we can use his energy and Burke's experience to benefit our community in a lot of ways. But when it comes to funding, where we have to probably spend money on what is called the infrastructure menu, we're going to have to make sure that if Burke is your alderman, that goes through him. The same thing with 13th Ward residents or 23rd Ward residents. But my office is right by Homer's and Pizza, as you all know. And we don't turn anybody away. If somebody comes in and they need our help with a complaint or request, we take it, and if it's something we need to forward along to Alderman Quinn or Burke, we do that. But nobody will ever be turned away and told, you don't live in the ward, so you can't come here. That's just the way we are going to operate as a trio of aldermen that have to take care of the southwest side and work together. So that's what we're going to do. So you can continue to come to us. Burke's office is on 51st Street, and if you're going to want to see him, you're going to have to call his office. But if it's something small, or if you have a complaint or a request, you can still stop in, and we'll make sure we forward.
First of all, I'd like to commend Alderman Zalewski for not allowing charter schools in our area and for signing the resolution demanding transparency in public school closings. And so I commend you for that. And Alderman Quinn, will you be advocating charter schools in this area, or will you keep charter schools out? Or will you at least advocate for unionized or a bargaining unit? And how can we sign the resolution?
My wife's a CTU member. I didn't sign the letter, the first letter, saying that the CTU members should go back to work while the contract negotiations are going on. Third point, Hale School is going to get a $15 to $20 million addition. The Grimes School just got a $6 million addition. In the 13th Ward, we're looking to build more schools.
CPS schools?
We're working through that. There's two CPS schools right now that are being worked through. So I don't have those problems today.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to having a good relationship with the mayor. He has demonstrated to us, to the Alderman Zalewski and I, as we had a press conference in January at Hale about the new addition, that he understands the need for extra classroom space in our community. Our community is only as strong as the public education we offer. There's a direct correlation between the strength of our neighborhood, the perception of our neighborhood, and the education that takes place in the school behind us. I recognize that. I go home every night and look into the eyes of a CTU member. I've got photos of my 20-month-old on the strike line, so I get it.
I was wondering what the alderman can do about maybe job creation in this neighborhood, because there's so many homes in this neighborhood that I ever remember in my entire life being up for sale. You know, it's really affecting what's going on, maybe TIF funds or tax incentives, because over on 65th and Cicero, there's all those hotels over there, and there should be more going on in our community, especially on Cicero and on Archer. Can you please address that in some way, please?
The job situation is, I don't like so it's always a challenge in communities like ours when people are out of work. Our, west of about Central is not TIF eligible, so we cannot use TIF funds for job creation on the west end of Clarion and Garfield Ridge. We have tried desperately to try and bring as many new businesses as we can along Archer, along 63rd Street, along Cicero and Pulaski. A lot of these big corporations will not come out here. Their demographics don't show that they can make money out here, which is absolutely silly. Because when I go out to dinner, if I'm not somewhere around here, and if I take my wife somewhere in LaGrange or out west, I'm running into people from the 23rd Ward all the time. And it drives me crazy that several years ago, we took every big hotel, restaurant chain, and at the time a couple of the different type of bookstores, and we put them in a big bus and drove them around the area, and we showed them the type of homes we have, how clean the neighborhood is. If you look at the average income in the west end of Clarion and Garfield Ridge, you have a lot of city workers, a lot of policemen, firemen, union people, and it's sad that they have to go other places to shop and eat. But we're going to continue to try and do that. We do have some new businesses opening up as we speak on Archer and on Harlem Avenue, where Arby's was at. There's going to be a new business there. Elbows is just about to open. It's ALBO, a little bit of everything is what it stands for. That's going to be a new restaurant that I think people are going to enjoy. So we'll continue to try. It's always a high priority for us to try and attract new businesses and try and find people jobs out there. It is tough.
The alderman mentioned you can't use TIF funds west of Central Avenue. Why is that, and what is the criteria?
Well, these TIFs are they're kind of all over the board, but our closest TIF ends at about Massasoit, and it's based on a number of things. It's you have TIFs in the loop area, so you would think, oh, okay, that's a big money area, but there's not a lot of residents that live right around those TIFs. But our closest TIF ends at Massasoit, and we did do a planned development, a planned industrial development on between 63rd and 59th Oak Park in Harlem, and hopefully that's going to attract a few new jobs. But we don't have a TIF west of Massasoit.
During the summer months, I've seen a lot of those food vendors, and I don't know if they're licensed or whatever. We'll be seeing that now. The 13th Ward is over here. And you know what I'm talking about? The cart. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know if they're licensed or whatever, but
the 23rd Ward has.
So if you're suggesting
I'm sorry,
that.
The 23rd Ward has a no solicitation ordinance.
okay.
So as it relates to that, in terms of vendors, if your question is if I'm going to bring the vendors with me,
No. And it's allowed in your ward. And it's allowed in your ward.
You're going to push it hard.
Thank you for taking my question serious.
the answer is no. That's the way you phrase the question. The answer is no. If you have
The
complaints,
23rd Ward doesn't allow it,
Yeah.
correct? Will the 13th allow it?
No. Well, the 14th.
13th and 25th.
No. 14th Ward also said they are not going to. So, and we're going to step up those patrols on that. If we see that, we're going to call the police department. The police will come out, they can confiscate those push carts or whatever. So we're going to stay on top of that as part of that. And I know, speaking to the 14th and the 13th Ward superintendent, they also said they're going to step up patrols on that to make sure that that's not going to happen out here. So it's all we can do.
That was what I was concerned
Okay, well,
about.
it's all we can do is if you see it, you call up, you call 911, the police will come out and they will confiscate it. They will issue that person a ticket. That's what we have to do.
I think building on that, there's an educational factor that has to take place, right? And as we see the vendors, right, I instruct our ward superintendent to show them a map. Explain to them where you're at, it's illegal. Where you're at, it's illegal.
Is it legal in the 13th?
Education, right. That's what we have to do. The ward superintendent's the only person that's enforcing. We work with the police and the bike units, but, you know, the ward superintendent is the only on-the-spot guy that I have to enforce it. So it starts with education.
Ladies and gentlemen, like Kevin said in his report, also what the aldermen are saying, it's all of us. This is all of us. It's all our neighborhoods. If we see something wrong or we know something's not right, we, as a community, have to take the step to call on it. Again, it's all of us. It's not just us and the aldermen, it's all of you as well. If you see something wrong, please call. That's how we keep the police here. That's how we want the police to know that we are active. We don't allow this. It's not right. Let's call on it. The more calls we get, the bigger the problem it seems to be. It'll be addressed.
Trucks driving in the neighborhood, big trucks.
Okay, yeah, there was an issue with, I guess, the truck because Central, they were working on.
No, not because of that, all the time. There's nothing.
Okay, Jeff, so why don't you tell me a little bit more
Well,
about
down
what you're
Neenah,
talking
I
about?
live on Neenah. Semi-trucks constantly going down the street.
Okay, so have you done any, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Have you called 911?
No.
Okay, well then what have you
What
done?
are they gonna do?
What have you done then about it?
What are they gonna do if
You
I
have
do
not
that?
brought that up to anybody then.
What are you gonna do, and I do.
Well,
what are they
until
gonna
you bring that up, now that you
Okay,
brought
I'll
that
call
up.
every time, and you're not
Hold
gonna
on, Jeff,
pay attention.
hold on. Now that you brought that up to us, that we're gonna address it with the police department, and we're gonna try to nip that in the bud. So until we know, and until the police know these issues, you know, we can't read everybody's mind. Everybody's not everywhere. So I know that some of the drivers were pulled over because they could not get through on the Central, so they came off of Harlem. And this is what the drivers have told me. Their GPSs have brought them down some of the streets to 51st Street. That's what happened with a couple instances.
That
I'm
I
not
can
saying-
understand if the streets are blocked, but this is not how the streets are blocked.
Okay, so now that will be addressed, and we are going to take that upon ourselves to deal with the police department, and we'll make sure that they get nipped in the bud.
Also, they go north on Meade.
Okay, so that's another.
And I know a neighbor of mine has called repeatedly.
Okay, good. Then that's what we need. That's what we want. That's what we want. People to talk about it. Call 911.
I live on Meade also. I called the 23rd Ward, and the response was, we're going to put up 5-ton load limit signs at the street stop-and-go lights on Archer. I said, well, we already have one on 54th and Meade as the truck goes northbound on Meade, and the drivers don't abide by the sign anyway. And he said, well, we have to catch them in the act. He said, so take a picture of their license plate. Well, by the time an 18-wheeler or a tanker goes down the street, I mean, how can you run outside and take a picture? So, I mean, the 23rd Ward has responded. He also said they sent a letter to the factories on 51st Street advising them to inform their drivers not to use the residential streets to get to 51st Street. But it's still happening. And I understand it's also happening on Mayfield, so it appears it's streets that have lights at Archer.
It's issues like this that once we're aware of it, we just have to look at how we can enforce it. If I talk, this is primarily during the day, I assume?
Yes.
If I talk to the day 10 Sector Sergeant, that's the Sergeant Chris Paluch, and let him know what's going on, and he can tell all the guys that regularly work in the area, they can start looking for that, and as they observe these trucks driving down the street, they can stop them.
3 to 6 o'clock.
I'm sorry?
3 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay.
Worst time.
All right, so that'll be the third watch guys, and then we'll talk to the third watch sergeant, and he'll tell all his guys, and they'll keep an eye out for it, and then they can enforce it, okay?
Since I'm out of Alderman Zalewski's ward and in my Alderman Quinn's ward, where do I vote? Do I still vote at the firehouse? Or do I have to go over someplace else? voting still set.
Chicago Board of Elections is working through the polling places as we speak. You'll be notified, I would say, within the next week. It was our request of the Board of Elections to make minimal or no changes, try to make it as convenient as possible to the new voters of the 13th Ward. So.
Okay, my next question, this is probably for Al. Now that we're in another ward and you're in charge of streets and sand, how is it going to affect our garbage pickup from the 23rd Ward to the 13th Ward?
Well,
Are we still on the grid pattern?
I think in the next month we're going to go into the grid-based garbage pickup where ward boundaries won't have an impact, which something that Alderman Zalewski and I worked on last budget season, which is going to save the city of Chicago for forecasting upwards of $60 million, which makes better sense. If you use where I live, for an example, I live at 64, just west of Boston. 2 blocks to the west of me is the 23rd Ward. It doesn't make any sense for them to stop garbage pickup 2 blocks from the west. They should just continue to go on the same day. So I think you'll see a more efficient garbage pickup once it's implemented, and actually more common sense.
So do we get to keep like our same garbage pickup guys?
I think they're gonna work through all
I know my name, so.
What's going to happen with that is, when it's implemented, they're going to have 30 trucks out here on a Monday.
Yep.
Our area up until like Cicero is going to be picked up on Monday. And your garbage can will have a sticker tagged on it saying, this is your new day for your garbage pickup. So we don't know when that is going to come. It might come within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. We just don't know yet. But that's what's going to happen. They're going to start on the west end with 30 trucks. You might have the same guys, you might not have the same guys. But your garbage will be picked up on Monday, and they're going to work their way east through the week.
My name is Peggy Bell. I would like to know what person designed this. It's very clear. It's really crazy. 57th to 59th is one ward, 51st to 50th is one ward. Was the guy drinking?
Just quickly on the truck issue, we did send letters to all the businesses. I think if we can get the police to write 1 or 2 tickets, you know, all those truckers have the CV sets, and they'll be calling each other saying, I got a Smoky or whatever they're called. They'll stay off a Major or Mead or one of these streets. You know, we have the 5-ton limits ordinance for all the side streets, but the truckers pretty much ignore them, and they shoot down. And if now the police are aware, if they can write a couple tickets,
You got to remember,
the word will spread.
Alderman, is that most of those truck drivers are off the road, might be only going there 1 or 2 times.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
They could be coming from the west coast or east coast, so they're strangers to our community. It's the regular truckers that you don't want cutting down the streets. The guys that come from out of town, their GPS direction on there, you know, I would even say you'll probably warn them. Most of them are decent enough. You warn them once, they won't do it again. In regards to the map, you know, we have to do a remap every time there's a census. People know, you know, I didn't support this map, and it really wasn't due to the fact that, you know, our area was kind of divided into 3 different wards. As I said earlier, I don't care about the ward boundaries as much as the fact that the 3 of us continue to work with folks like you and the civic leagues, because that's really what's going to make the difference. But I will, you know, I'll say this, and I don't even know if Alderman Quinn or Burke would agree with me. I still believe that at some point in the near future, you're going to see the city council, the size of the city council reduced. I don't know if it'll be 25 wards, maybe 30, but I think that day is coming. So for now, you know, this is the map, it's law, and we're all going to have to live with it. But
Who did it?
I think it's important to understand that, as the Alderman was saying, every 10 years, the ward boundaries are drawn based on the city population. City of Chicago lost upwards of 200,000 people. So in terms of the 13th ward, it had to shrink by 14,000 people. The most is in terms of the south side of the city. The most population loss was from Western Avenue to the lakefront, which pushed all of the wards. If you were to look at the wards in their current state into their new state, pushed all the wards west. So that's sort of an explanation.
Were all the wards in the city redesigned like this one?
Some are worse. Some are worse. When you go up northwest, yeah. So,
Peg, I think with the 3 aldermen working together and all of us working together, beat 811 is really what we're going to be concerned about. And then beat 812 also, Mayor. I don't want to forget you guys to ourselves.
and I think that's an excellent point, Al. And to the alderman's point earlier in his remarks, boundaries don't mean anything to me. I know they don't mean anything to Alderman Zalewski and Alderman Burke. As we continue to work together to provide the constituents the service that, quite frankly, you're paying for, right? And to make sure that we're working together and keeping open lines of communication. I know Alderman Zalewski and I meet almost on a weekly basis just to talk about different things, to make sure nothing slips through the cracks. And as long as you have that cooperation and that willingness to make sure you're getting your money's worth from your tax dollars, I think, from my perspective, the ward boundaries don't mean a whole heck of a lot.
I thought that the change was supposed to take effect 2015, but obviously it's starting now.
The Chicago Board of Elections has implemented the changes for this election cycle. So for November, you'll be voting as a resident of whatever ward your address says you're in.
But for issues that are...
In terms of city services, or to the alderman's point about infrastructure dollars, I'm not certain when that's going to take effect.
Okay, because I want to say a friend of mine lived in the 14th Ward, Alderman Burke, and they're calling his office asking for services and are being told, I'm not your alderman anymore, you have to call, which I think she's moved on to the 15th Ward. They call that ward and told, no, not until 2015. So they're not getting anywhere. So I hope we don't have that problem with Alderman Burke here.
I can only speak for the relationship that Alderman Zalewski and I have and how we're collaborating. And that's, in all fairness, that's to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. What other aldermen do or choose not to do, I guess that's the beauty of the system, is that they'll have their day in November, February 15th, when the aldermanic report cards are out. So, but in terms of Alderman Quinn of the 13th Ward, Alderman Zalewski of the 23rd Ward, I can tell you that we're doing everything on our end to make sure that not only we're collaborating, but our staffs are collaborating to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks.
Again, I think that if you live on Normandy and on the south side or the east side, you're in the 14th Ward, and the west side, you're in the 23rd Ward, and your garbage isn't picked up, your garbage will be picked up. You're going to have the same services just because you're across the street. So, because again, we all have a quality of life that we want to live, and we demand that, and I know they do. And so I think it's going to work out fine. So I think everybody needs to take a deep breath, let it kind of happen, and it'll work out. We'll
Give that grid collection about 2 weeks though. Here's why. If, let's say you live by 55th and Central now and your garbage pickup is on a Friday, and then the following week the grid starts and you're going to get picked up Friday and then you're going to get picked up Monday right away. So it'll take like a week or two for it to balance out. But when it does, then you'll know every Monday your garbage is picked up. Because they are going to start out here on the west end at Harlem and move east end.
What about the recycling?
Recycling will still be every other week, and next year, in 2013, it's going to go citywide. We have it out here now, like the 14th Ward doesn't have it. So as of 2013, the entire city will have recycling.
Can I say something? If you're in beat 811 and you can't get in touch with your alderman, get in touch with the Neighborhood Watch, because we can get in touch with your alderman. Okay? You can go on the email and you can send your complaint or your request to the email address, or you can call the tip line if you have an issue, and we will make sure that your issue gets to the correct alderman.
My question is directed to Alderman Zalewski, and it's probably more of a statement, but I know the redistricting was done to better reflect the Hispanic population of Chicago. We went from a 40% Hispanic to 60% in the 23rd Ward. The 23rd Ward has basically been decimated. If you look at the ward map, the majority of the population is now east of Cicero and actually east of Pulaski to Gage Park and Marquette Park. What assurance do we have that in the future you will not be offered a higher position in the city, and to better reflect the Hispanic population of the 23rd Ward, we have a new alderman who's elected from the more Hispanic part of our ward. Alderman who is basically on Archer and Meade to one who is closer to, let's say, Western Avenue. How is he going to represent the people of the 23rd Ward in the west end of this ward? I mean, we've always been on the low end of city services in this area. We've always been the blue-collar neighborhood that never protests about anything. The people in Lincoln Park, when they found out they were going to be redistricted, they had community meetings, and they were not redistricted. When Alderman Burke came to St. Jane in the summer, he was asked, were you for or against the redistricting? He said, I was against it. Somebody said, how did you vote? He said, well, I voted for it. And everybody said, why'd you vote for it? Because we were being held hostage by the Hispanic alderman. We would have never gotten anywhere without an agreement. And who was on the short end of the stick? The 23rd Ward. We're nothing. I mean, you look at what we used to be. We've been taken over by Burke and Madigan, basically. And you, our alderman, I mean, you have a little sliver which you represent, and we have a very large Hispanic population to the east. So what is our assurance that a deal won't be done and we have a new Hispanic alderman when the elections for aldermen come up? You're obviously, you were against this. We know this. But it was beyond your control. And the population of this area are held hostage like Alderman Burke was held hostage. The most powerful alderman in the city was held hostage by Hispanic aldermen. That makes no sense at all.
Here's what I'll tell you. As far as me being offered a different job and leaving, the truth is that already happened. October of last year, I was called in the mayor's office and asked if I would consider becoming the commissioner of the Department of Streets and Sanitation. Hell no, it was no secret. And it was right around the time of the remap. It was a department that I started out as a laborer, ended up working my way up to a deputy commissioner. And it was truly an honor to be asked, but I have the job now that I really always wanted. I have no interest in leaving. The map is what it is. I'm not going to sit there and say I support it because I didn't, simply because at the end, I understood that there had to be some shifting in ward boundaries due to the different population shifts. And I negotiated in real good faith, all the way up until the end when I just felt there was a gun put to my head and said, either you're going to vote for this or we're going to do it without you. I said, well, then you're going to have to do it without me. So I don't want to go backward in time. I have to represent the area that is now my ward. The map is about 62% what is considered voting age population. So it's population that's really not voters, but the ward does go all the way to Kedzie. You have the map. I'm not going to deny that. And again, I would feel a lot worse about where we were in the west end of the city of Chicago if I didn't know that I could work with Marty and work with Alderman Burke. So I think that's all I can really say about it. Marty.
You know what? We could get a guarantee that he's going to be our alderman at next election. We make sure we come out and vote and he wins. So that's how it works.
Well, we always come out and win, but the point is, there's a very large population that is not in this area.
But we don't know if that population votes.
Very true.
So let's worry about that when it comes, and I think we could still make it work. So. Last question.
Yes, Sherry Russo, you're my alderman. I wanted to know, Rahm Emanuel, I voted for him, I thought he's a good guy. He never got past the orange line at Pulaski. He has never been here, has he? Or am I missing something?
Well, he's been out, as Marty said, he came out, I think it was January, February, when we announced the addition for Hale School. He was at a roundtable breakfast meeting a little bit east of here about 2 weeks ago. But we do have to get him out here. I think it's important. I'd love to have him come out to this group. I think he'd be impressed with this size of a turnout. I think he'd be impressed with your knowledge of city government and city services. And we'll make it a point to write down, I'll get some meeting dates from Al and see if we can get them on.
I think it would make your job a little easier too.